Hello, Wizards here. After we have learned about what Linux 7 is, and we successfully installed it, it's time to start actually learning how to use it. First thing we're going to cover is file system, as it differs from what you've seen definitely in Windows, and probably a little bit in Mac as well. So let's cut this intro right here. If you like what I'm doing here, leave a like, subscribe, and off we go. Overall, the catalog directory looks like this. As the beginning, we have root directory, so /add. Don't think that this root and this is the same. This is completely two different stuff, and we're going to talk about it later on. You see, there is a fair share of these, but we're going to cover a few of them. First are the binaries. As you can see, binaries are divided into so many different directories. It's divided like this to prevent accidentally overwriting core binaries. So for example, if you download a binary called bash and it will all be stored in the same directory, it could by a chance overwrite it, so you pretty much lose your system. And why is it divided like this? Let's begin. First, this /bin. This contains all the binaries that are specifically essential for the OS. You can find their bash, you can find their cat, find, all the basic commands. Second one is the sbin. It contains, as the name suggests, system binaries. Yes, in coding and overall in IT, we really love acronyms. These binaries are meant to be run by root user only. We're gonna check it out later when we're gonna be actually using our Linux. Two left are user/bin and user local bin. In user bin, you can find all the binaries that are not critical and meant for the user. Here, most binaries installed by package managers such as apt or pacman in Arch will land. Yet in user local bin are stored all the binaries that have been compiled and installed by an administrator themselves. Your OS won't install anything in here, and you can be sure that no update will delete anything from this directory. That's a brief overview, and now if we know what user bin and user local bin means, what is even user? User is another acronym. It stands for Unix System Resources. Also, there's one more I should have mentioned, user/sbin, which is just like /sbin, but you don't need to be in the root directory. For some reason it's like this. It also includes some more interesting stuff, for example /user share, as you see here. It hoards two very important parts. First, manual pages for all the commands. I'm going to show you how to use them, because when you don't know how to run a command, you can just type in your terminal man command and it's going to pop you out with the manual page. And info, which hoards all the GNU documentation documents. Also, if you are running Kali Linux, which probably will if you're watching this channel, it also stores word lists for fuzzing, password cracking, whatever you want, and web shells, such as PHP reverse shell. User include stores all the header files for C language. This is not a C language course, so I'm not gonna dive too deeply into it. It's pretty much all the binaries, not binaries, but functions that are meant to be used in C. And user/lib stores all the shared libraries shared by binaries in /user. Alright, next, when I talked about all the most important directories, let's maybe go to some configs. So, etc. directory. Etc. also stands for something. It's editable text configs, and it hoards all the most important config files such as shadow, password, hosts. It can also store all the configuration files for other binaries, such as for example Apache server. About them we're gonna find out more next episode, where we'll dive deeper into files and we're gonna see how to interact with them. Now, it's just enough for you to know that this directory exists, and there are plenty of important files in there. Next is boot directory. This is the bootloader and all the important data that are used for booting, so starting up your operating system. Next are device files. This directory stores all the file representations of each device, partition, or driver that you have connected to your Linux. Here you can create all the partitions and more. These partitions are named in a specific way. It's always /dev/sd, and there's frequently a letter. Letter means a disk, so there's SDA, SDB, SDC, and there can also be partitions 1, 2, 3, which is SDA1, SDA2, SDA3. Then we have optional. It contains all the add-ons, other optional software. If you're running Linux day-to-day, you will most likely find nothing in there. In CTFs, there's plenty of privileged collection vectors hidden inside this op directory. Next one is lib. Just like user/lib, it stores all the shared libraries right now for the whole operating system. Then, another important one, TMP, which stands for temporary. Here are stored, as the name suggests, all the temporary data. All the sessions, tmax sessions for example, are stored there, and if you reboot the machine, everything from here will disappear. Then we have two directories which hoard all the quickly changing data. /run hoards changing runtime information and ongoing communications, such as sockets, logs, and so on. For example, all the systemd sessions or logging daemons can be found in /run. And /var stores fast caching, changing data like logs, cache files. It changes while the operation system runs. For example, in var, you can find PHP web server files, which is var www/html. Also, all the logs or the backups are stored in /var. Then we have so-called virtual directories. Rest of the directories I've told you about are existing right on the hard drive. So if you take a hard drive out and plug it somewhere, you're gonna find this. But these two, you will not find them. Why? Because unlike all the previous ones, /prots and /sys are stored in your RAM memory and not on your hard drive. /prots is used to provide information about system and processes. Each process has its own directory named with the PID, which is process ID, and stores important data about the process. You can also refer to processes as to themselves by addressing /prots/self, but about this, I'm going to introduce you into it in one of the next parts. And sys is just like prots, but it provides an interface to kernel. It gives a system-like view of information and configuration settings that kernel provides. If you're doing forensics, you probably won't use this directory too often, but it's nice to know. And now, two really important ones, /home and /root. They hold all the user data. They're something like your C user's username catalogs in folders in Windows. But right now, home and root store all the user files that I told you. /root is for personal data of root user, so the superadmin, and home is for all the users. Default template of a new user's home directory can be found in /etc/skel, spelled SKEL. I'm gonna show it to you afterwards. Alright, we have all the theoretical basics. Now let's jump to our Debian that we have installed previously. So we're gonna put everything we've learned here into practice. See you. Alright, we are here. As you see, I fired up our Linux that we installed previously. So let's try and learn something hands-on. First, we're gonna launch terminal. Of course, plenty of things can be done using graphical user interface, or GUI in short. but using terminal is kind of important, especially if you're planning on being a sysadmin or other more techy stuff, because not always you're gonna have GUI right in front of you, and some things are just easier to do with terminal. Alright, as you see, I've launched it. I have it in dark mode, but if you install it by default it's gonna be in light. You can go here, preferences, and from this drop down choose dark instead of default. And yeah, as you see here, we are greeted with this magic screen, and we have this string here. Why this? First, we see our username. User we are right now logged in as. If we change our user to someone else, this will change as well. This is our host name, the same one we specified previously in the, when we're installing. After those two dots, we have the directory we are right here in. This is the separator, and here we can launch commands. To figure out in what directory we are, we can use pwd, which stands for print working directory. Click enter and you see we are in /home/wizardus. As I've told you before, this is where our main files are located. So yeah, all the users have their directories in home, but how can we move it? But first, we need to know where we should go. Let's type in ls. This command will list all directories inside where we specify. By default, if you provide it with nothing here, it means that it's going to list directories in the current directory. Directories and files in the current directory. So in our case, /host/wizardus. This little tilde here, just on our keyboard shift and this button over tab, that means current user's home directory. Okay. But to this ls we can add some options. Options to any command are added by dash and one letter, or dash dash and some text. In some commands, like in ls, those dashes can be split, maybe consolidated into one. Let's start the first, which will be dash a. Dash a lists all the files and directories, counting the hidden ones. To create a hidden file, as you see, we just need to add dot before the name. Bash history, bash logout, bash rc, all that are hidden files and directories. And now, how do we know which one is the directory, which one is a file? We can use it and learn by giving to ls-l. This will show us all the information about the directory or a file. Let's look at documents here. It's here that this is what it is, the first letter here, which is a D for directory. This can be nothing for a file or a couple of other stuff, which I'm going to talk next time. They have permissions. There we have to whom it belongs. So this is a user, this is a group. Now just know it exists. We're going to learn about it when we're going to talk about users. There's in a couple of parts. Then the size of it and when it was created. If we consolidate those two arguments, those two, right? So we type in ls-l-a. Right now, as you see, we have all the information for both hidden and not hidden files and directories. And as you see here, this dash means that there's a file. About basic privileges, it's divided into three parts. Here are privileges for the user owner. So some specified here. There are privileges for group owning the file or directory, and then for the rest of people. R means read, W means write, and there is also X, like here, which means execute. So if you look at, for example, bash rc, it states that user wizardus, who is an owner, can read and write to this file. This means that everyone who is in group wizardus can just read this file, just like everyone else who's neither Wizardus himself and neither does not belong to group Wizardus. Alright, but we can't always store everything in our pre-made directories. We can create something new. Let's go to, for example, may not go nowhere right now. We can create a directory called new dir. This command will, as I told you, create us a new directory, which will be make this mk dir stands for directory. Now, if we made, for example, some typo, or we just want to do the directory, we can use rm dir new directory. This will remove the directory, but you need to remember that rmdir is only for empty directories. So if there was some file existing in new directory, we will need to use remove command with -r, meaning recursive. So it will delete everything in directory with directory itself included. But if we create this new dir, now maybe we want to get into it, save some files there or something. This can be done by using command cd, which stands for change directory. So you just type in cd new dir, and as you see here, we see that directory has changed. Right now we are in home/directory. Now to go back, we can use cd // and this // is so-called path traversal operator. This is very important, and you should remember what it does, because there can be many of these. So if we type in // it's going to go 2 directories up. We land in home, and then we can go to Wizardus. We're back in home. If we specify, let's take for example bash rc, and we want to read this from here, we're just gonna type in command bash rc. But if you want to text from some other directory, let's maybe say /, which will be our root, then we can use either absolute path, which starts with / and then it'll be home wizard./.bashrc, or relative path, which will be without the slash. But if we go to, for example, cd home/public, and we see that this file bashrc is one directory out. We type in // and this is .bashrc. This tells our Linux to, alright, to find this file, go one directory up, and there you will find it. This is everything I want to cover today. Wait for the next video, because next time we're gonna learn about files, what they do, and how to mess around with them. That's about it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little intro. Do not miss on any new content. Subscribe, hit that notification button, and leave some positive comments for engagement. Again, thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.